recording in progress.
Got it. We're gonna.
Hello, my name is Daniel Bergjans. I've been with the Gelman team for 9 years now, and mostly as a listing specialist. I also worked in inside sales and as a buyer specialist as well. And today we're going to go over Investment Properties 101. So about me, these are my personal stats. I've sold 529 homes, so very experienced in that. I own 15 doors, that's 14 apartments, and then my personal home, which I'll eventually hold as a rental. And then I've done 5 flips now, and I'm working on number 6 at the moment. So we'll go over benefits of real estate investing, procuring and running numbers on flips. I'll go over some of the flips that I've done and lessons learned from each, and running numbers on multifamily investments as well, and also case studies on properties I've purchased and what I've learned along the way. Benefits of real estate investing: long-term appreciation, protects your capital, provides cash flow when you buy it correctly, provides tax write-offs. It's a great inflation hedge, and very hard to disrupt. People always need a place to live. So procuring flips really is agents. Any seller could potentially be a flip opportunity. The vast majority are not, but you just want to go into each listing appointment open-minded that it could be, and you want to be prepared on how to handle it if they are open to sell off market as is. So you want to get a full understanding of the seller's goals, find out if they, it's weird that a lot of people really do prefer to sell as convenient as possible, even if it means leaving thousands and thousands of dollars on the table. And it's more common than most people think. So on our team, what we're trained to do is on a lot of our listing appointments, people want to understand both options, and also a hook for how we get in the door for the listing appointment is often people wanting to understand what the cash offer would be. So you want to be prepared to run somewhat ballpark numbers on the spot to evaluate if they're realistic in selling to us as an investment property or not. So I'll get into that in a moment. The vast majority of sellers will want to maximize dollars and elect to go through the traditional process. So you want to be cautious not to push the cash offer too hard. I really don't push it at all. I throw it out there, and I act as their advocate. So I kind of encourage them to go traditional, but if they give any slight pushback to that, then I'm heavily going for the cash offer avenue. Yeah, so just really be prepared for the occasional encounter where the seller is a legitimate flip lead. And when you discuss both options, just don't push them too hard to the cash offer because you don't want to lose their trust. But you do want to emphasize the extreme convenience of the cash offer, throw it out there and see how they react. And when you initially present both options, do not present the actual cash offer if you can avoid doing so. On occasion, the seller will be adamant they just want to know the exact number, but most of the time, if you give them a ballpark idea, you can vet out quickly if they're open-minded to that or not. So yeah, the actual cash offer can potentially frustrate the seller or make them feel that you don't believe in their home. So I've definitely in the early days lost listing opportunities by being a little too transparent with what our cash offer would be. So as an example, if if I go into a listing and the buyer or the seller, let's say it's a $200,000 house and I know that I can get it to 250 after repairs. And let's say if it would take 70,000 to get there, what I'll do is I'll let them know, hey, our cash offer would be, I'll run about 75% of the retail. So if I know it's 200 now, I might just let them know, hey, if we were to buy your home, and we'd have to pay south of 170, something like that. So I had a lot of padding. So I'm not giving away what the actual number would be, but it's a way to quickly vet out how they, how based on how they react to that, if they're actually a potential flip lead or not. And most people will not be. But if you tell them that you have to buy it at 125,000 for the numbers to work, they may not trust you anymore. They may lose faith in you representing them on a traditional listing. So overall, you really have to finesse how you present the cash offer. And some people will just be very numbers driven and persistent, that they just want to know the number, in which case you just eventually you present it to them and either works or it doesn't. Running numbers on flips. So, and I'm only on my 6th personal flip, but I've done a lot of wholesaling as well. So I've seen how other investors run numbers. So I'm at this point now where I'm getting pretty darn good at coming up with an accurate renovation budget up front. But in the beginning, you don't always know what things cost. So, one, you want to be cautious with this, but one way to do that, if you're not sure what it costs, you can just estimate, something like painting the interior of a 1,500 square foot home or 2,000 square foot home. You could estimate it's about $5,000, or replacing carpeting, in a medium-sized home, you can estimate that to be about $5,000. So kind of the smaller to medium type items, if you're not sure, you can just estimate $5,000 for that. For bigger stuff like a roof, drain tile system, and other, you want to estimate about $10,000. And in reality, it may end up being 8 or 9. But you always want to kind of overestimate a tad, if anything. It's important to have a good relationship with your general contractor. So I now have one awesome general contractor, to where what I do is I go out, I photo the property, not to be marketed, but just from my phone when I visit, and I'll just email the photos to him and have him review the photos and let me know ballpark what he feels the total renovation budget would be. So that's how I quickly identify what that number should look like. I usually come up with my own, and then I run it by him, see what his thoughts are, and then from there make my offer. And this is before inspection, so that number still could change. But it's just very important. It helps immensely having a great relationship with your general contractor. So mine, I've been working with for about 8 years now on traditional stuff. Just started working with him on flips probably 2 years ago. I consider him a friend. I've gone drinking with him. I've gone shooting with him. So we just have a level of trust to where I can call him and quickly, get the answers I need. So running numbers on flips. This is a way to quickly identify, where you could buy a property at and make money. So ARV, after repair value. So if the property is 230,000, these are the numbers on the flip that I'm currently working on. So if we know the ARV is 230,000, I'll usually take 0.8 of that number. You preferably like to be closer to 0.7, but it just depends. This is a home that I know is a slam dunk sale once we're done with it. And the seller, if I did 0.7, probably the numbers wouldn't work for her. So, you want to be closer to that 0.7 number, but 0.8 will usually work as well.
Can you talk real quick about ARV, how you just do comps and decked out, or how are you selecting your ARV?
So the ARV, yeah, would be comps of other updated similar size homes.
And within 3 months ideally, or what are you looking at?
I go back 6 months.
Okay.
And a lot of this comes down to the experience in being a real estate salesperson helps significantly in knowing the market and whatnot to come up with the right ARV. And you want to be accurate, but also conservative with that. Like this house, I'm running it off of 230,000. I think that when we do our thing to it, that I'll bet it sells for 235, 239 most likely. So I take 0.8 of the 230 minus the renovation budget, gives me my ballpark purchase price. And so this is getting in more in detail. So this is where I take everything into consideration when I'm coming up with what we'd ultimately profit from this deal. So I think the ARV is 230,000. Our renovation budget, I came up with about 50. I then ran it by our contractor who also confirmed that 50 was right. We initially had this under contract at 140. We actually got it down to 136. And then you want to take into consideration outgoing commission. So we're doing a 2.5% buyer agent payout. And then I run it off 3% because we have expenses and photography and marketing and other. And then title company closing costs as a seller usually end up being between 400 and 500. So I budget 500 there. And then holding costs. So in this situation, we're allowing the seller to rent back from us for 2 months. And then as soon as she moves out, we're going to start our renovation and get it on the market ASAP. So my holding costs, I'm looking at my payment, interest, taxes, and insurance on this property comes out to be $1,528.45 multiplied by 4 months. Minus she's going to pay us $800 a month in rent for 2 months, so minus $1,600 gives us the $45.13.80. And then I estimate ballpark holding costs or utilities. I'm probably overestimating, but $300 by 4 months. And then we always do professional staging on our flips. So estimating about $3,000 for professional staging. So the profit would be about $23,886 minus inspection repairs. So that's an unknown at this time. I do have budgeted in our renovation budget to address miscellaneous repairs. So we do a pretty good job. I mean, from being experienced in traditional sales, what stuff comes up over and over again. So we do a good job of just tackling that stuff up front the best we can. And so the homes that we flip, they're very, very buttoned up to where they usually get a premium. So this is the renovation budget on that home. So it's 3124 Dillon. This is how I came up with the 50,000. So budgeted. Let's see. Can you see these photos?
Nope.
No.
Reshare, just unshare and then reshare that.
Let's see.
So stop share. That's right.
I may not even mess with the photos. Yeah.
Okay.
So 7,000 to repaint the interior. This is a 1,400 square foot ranch in Melville. I'm budgeting 8,000 to replace the flooring throughout. We'll probably do LVP luxury vinyl plank throughout. 7,000 to update the bathroom. There's one full bathroom. Kitchen is totally dated, so we're budgeting 15,000 to update the kitchen. Everything. So cabinets, countertops, appliances, and this is per our contractor who's thrown out the 15. And it depends on the house. I mean, it also depends on the price point. This one's going to end up being about 230,000. At a higher price point, the kitchen could be 50K. I mean, it could be 100K. So just depends on the house. But on this one, we can get away with 15,000. Budgeted 3,000 for light fixtures throughout, which is probably a little high, and replacing the interior doors. They're single panel doors. We'll go 6-panel new doors throughout. Couple thousand for improving the landscaping, so just fresh mulch, cleaning it up, nothing too carried away. This house up front, I knew that it's a new roof, so 1 year old. Water heater is 10 years old, AC unit's 10 years old. They both look fine, so we're gonna just go with those. The furnace is old and it looks really old, so we're gonna replace the furnace. And then I budgeted 3,000 for miscellaneous repairs so that we can bring it out as buttoned up as possible. So these are examples of flips that I've done and what I learned from each one. So I've learned a lot along the way. So this is my first one ever. This was back in 2019. So 523 Rosewell Court. And how we procured this was, it was a retired Boeing guy who had a second home out of state, wanted to move there. His wife was already living out there, and he was motivated. He just wanted to be done. So I went out there, and this is my first one ever. So I was shocked that he took our offer. He wanted to know what the cash offer was, and I let him know, hey, if you want this to be as simple as possible, we could list this traditional as is, like 275, 285, around there. And for us to buy it, for it to make sense, our offer would be 208. I didn't push him towards the 208 at all. If anything, I was pushing him towards traditional because I wanted to convert it. And last minute before signing listing paperwork, he said, no, I'll just go with your guys' cash offer. And then from there, we just move forward.
Did you hit him with inspection, or like, did he end up absorbing any other costs after that?
He
Or
did
was
not.
it okay.
We did so we'll do a walk and talk
Yeah.
with an inspector. So we'll have a 5-day inspection period where we'll do a walk and talk. We do emphasize we're buying it as is, and then we really intend to not renegotiate, although sometimes we have to. We'll do a walk and talk. We'll have our contractor join us, and we'll also do a sewer lateral inspection. And most sellers are pretty understanding of all that. And then, so on this one, we bought it at 208, put in about 50,000, and sold it at 325. So the total profit was 67. So it went extremely well. Now, this one I was the general contractor on this. So this one was extremely exhausting, and I was pretty burnt out after just the one flip because I was so busy. This was spring 2019, so I was slammed with my traditional business, and then I was general contractor on this. So, and it was located, I lived in Brentwood at the time. This was located off Kiefer Creek in a subdivision over there. So terrible highway access, great area, but bad highway access. So I was driving from Brentwood all the way out there all the time, meeting contractors. I was managing a painter, our flooring guy, handyman, and we hired somebody separate to do, we were trying to hire someone separate to do railings. So I was meeting a lot of people out there, getting estimates and whatnot. So a lot of driving back and forth. And overall, it was pretty exhausting. A lot of contractors flaked on me. So I drive all the way out there and then they wouldn't be there. So overall, what I learned from that is it is way more fun to do this when you have a general contractor. So one contractor who's managing the subs. With me doing it, I learned a lot, and that was the intent with me doing it at the time. But yeah, I just ideally would never do it that way again unless it was a very minor renovation. But it went extremely well. And Petrina Court, so this is a home in Crestwood area. So we bought this at 210. So how we bought this, it was pretty straightforward. They approached Mark Gelman, just wanting a cash offer. He offered him 210. They took it. So we bought it at 210,000. It was a very light renovation. So we just freshen the place up a bit. So repainted, replaced appliances, replaced light fixtures throughout, redid some flooring, took up old carpeting that had hardwoods underneath. So our renovation costs was only $13,000 on this one, and we ultimately sold it at $270,000. And on this, we did not go to the open market. So I was monitoring on all these flips, and from start to finish, I'm monitoring the comps, very closely. And this one I didn't like where some of the new comps were coming in at. So I actually was a bit nervous about how this would do on the open market, and it was wintertime. So we ran it by a fund, and they came out and offered us 270, which is about 10K higher than I thought we'd get. And so we went with that. So lesson learned there, sometimes it makes sense to sell off market to a fund or another investor, when you can. All right, Shadow Oak. So this was one in Nice Ranch in Baldwin. My brother Matt procured this. So same thing as Rosewell. He provided the two options. We could go traditional at the higher number, or we could buy it at $230,000. The seller, I think, was just wanting to be done. I don't remember his exact circumstances, but went with the $230,000. So the nice thing with how we approach it too is I never feel guilty like we're always presenting both options to where I never feel like I'm taking advantage of someone when I buy a home at a huge discount. And it is wild how many people are willing to sell at a discount. So just stay very open-minded about that when you're out there. And then renovation costs on this was about $100,000. We sold it at $390,000. Profit was about $60,000. And how we got this, so an ISA, Jimmy ISA'd it to Matt B, and then so it was actually in the MLS as an expired listing. So that shows, there are deals in the MLS. They're rare and they're harder to find, but this one went great. And so just keep that in mind when you're calling in expireds and whatnot. Most of what we buy is off market where we're the first in the door, but you never know.
What was the $100,000? Because that's pretty significant for you guys.
Yeah, so on that one we finished the lower level, or we redid the lower level, and then we did some strategic updating to the kitchen, but we kept the cabinets they already had, flooring throughout, fixtures, 2 bathrooms, paint throughout, baseboards and whatnot. So yeah, $100,000. There's probably more to it than that. I think that the basement was a really big expense finishing that.
What did you think that was going to sell? That one went way over, didn't it?
We listed at $340,000.
Okay, perfect.
So we were really needing it to sell over asking, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
2 Woodford Place. So this is a ranch in St. Charles. So how we got that, Matt B procured this one where the seller is buying through our team, and they just wanted it to be as smooth of a process as possible. They wanted to buy first and know that their place is already under contract and they can gradually move into their new home. So they just wanted extreme convenience. So this home, we bought it $370,000. It was a light renovation. We put $38,000 into it. On this, here, let me go through the photos. How do I do that? I stop share.
Just stop share. Yep, and then pull up your screen.
The MLS.
And then go back to, just make sure it's available. Yeah, there you go. Pull up where you and then go back to Zoom, and then so exit that. Go back to your Zoom screen. There you go. And then it should still pull up. It says Maris. Yep, there you go.
There we go. So here's 2 Woodford. So just to get into the weeds on what we did on this one. So for $38,000, they had awesome landscaping outside. So really extensive landscaping. So we really spruced that up, had it showing its best. And yeah, it's an awesome lot. Other than that, we just repainted the interior. We had it professionally staged. We replaced some fixtures throughout, ceiling fans and whatnot. But this house is actually dated, so it's older cabinetry. You have an older countertop there. I was really nervous about this one because we closed on it, or we put it under contract, I believe in May, and we didn't close on it till September. This is in 2022, so the market slowed way down. So, yeah, and this home sides to Zumbell Road, and it has a dated kitchen and whatnot. So I was really nervous about this one. It ended up working out extremely well. But yeah, dated kitchen, but we just staged it, had it looking nice, fresh paint. The staging makes a huge difference. The new fixtures makes a huge difference. It's older carpeting, just extremely well maintained. In the bathroom, I think we just did some new hardware there and whatnot. Deck was fine. Had the landscaping looking its best, and this goes to show you don't have to deck the place out all the time. I mean, on this one, I think we just optimized what the home had and didn't get into any serious renovating of bathrooms and kitchen and whatnot. And we listed at 435 and sold at 470. So that went very well. So lesson learned there, be cautious with far out closing dates. The market can change and it can change, relatively quickly. So this one, it worked out fine, but it's definitely a scary one. And then 12170 Plainsman Drive, this is our most recent flip. This is another one Matt B procured and presented both options to the seller. Seller preferred the lower number, more convenient route, 175. We put about 116,000 into this one, sold it at 350. So the profit was right around 59,000. So we ran into some trouble on this. Our renovation costs ended up being a lot higher than we expected. There's only so much you can see up front. So once our contractor got behind the cabinets and got behind the drywall and whatnot, here, I'll show you what this one looked like. He found termite damage. Yep, so the cost went way up on that. But this one, we pretty much redid everything. All right, so here it is. We cleaned up the exterior. The exterior looked like crap originally. Painted the front porch, LVP floors throughout, professionally staged, repainted throughout, new cabinetry. You don't always have to have a refrigerator. Most of the time we will. It was actually our contractor who recommended that we not. He told us that when he was flipping years ago, they would never put refrigerators in there, so we got away without one. Yeah, the professional staging makes a huge difference. And then totally redid the bathroom. We redid the finished lower level. New fence. And this one went very well. Closed at 350, listed at 325. So in a lot of these, most of these have gone over asking, and it's from just having it priced on the button and having the home just totally move-in ready, very buttoned up. And yeah, in this low inventory environment, good things are happening. Here you go back to my presentation.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so those were single family flips. That's really just, that's active income. Multifamily it's not totally passive, but more passive. These are long-term holds. So I'll walk you through the deals I've done and what I learned from those. So a quick way to analyze if it's a good buy or not is the 1% rule. So if let's say it's a duplex or 4 family. So for duplex, bringing in 2,000 a month, so 1,000 on each side. I'd ideally like to pay around 200,000. Now in this market, the way things are going, that's very hard to find in good areas. In rougher areas, you can find that all day, but in areas where you're going to get appreciation, it's a lot harder to find that. So location, it's all with these long-term holds. It's all about location. It's extremely important. So as I go through these, I'll show the location and what made me feel really good about buying these as a long-term hold. And then when I'm running numbers, I'm really analyzing, does it cash flow and enough to pay the property manager and whatnot and still have some cash flow left over? And is there an opportunity to add value and raise the rents? And are there factors that may differentiate my apartments from others in the area so that we can easily get tenants? So these are numbers on a duplex that me and my brother own, just so you can analyze the cash flow. So this duplex, we bring in $1,350 a month on each side. So $2,700 is monthly income. And then expenses, we have our management fee. We pay this manager 6% a month, but then they charge a full month to lease the property. So it's more expensive when they lease it, but less expensive per month. And $165 for having the lawn mowed and whatnot. And then $96.90 on sewer, $84 on trash, $101 on water. And our mortgage is payment and interest is $1,120.56. Then you have prorated taxes, insurance. So our cash flow on that comes out to be $708 after paying everybody. And on that one, we let the money build up in our joint account, and we're going to reinvest it back into the building when we need to. So we're not always taking that money every month. This is the first multifamily deal I did. This was with Mark Gelman. We bought it in 2019. It was a situation where the seller wanted to understand both options. This is another one where he was about to sign listing paperwork. We were going to list it at like $289 and do a traditional listing. And we had offered him $235, and then last minute came back and said, "Hey, I just want to be done. I'll sell it to you at $235." So it just goes to show, sometimes you throw your number out there, even if it's way low, but you still, you're their advocates. You emphasize, hey, if you want to maximize dollars, here's the avenue to make that happen. And just be prepared. They may take that lower offer. It's a great thing when they do. So we've put about 50,000 into this 4 family. When we bought it, the rents were $775, $750, and 1 vacancy. The rents are now $950, $850, $850, and $825. I think it's probably valued, at least at $425. That's probably conservative. And the big differentiator with this one is it's 3-bed, 1-bath units. So that's fairly hard to find. It's right by Afton High School, so there's a lot of families that live in there. And what I learned here was hire a property manager. So I managed this one at the beginning, and it is, in my opinion, well worth it to hire a manager. So I was getting all the pesky calls from tenants. The one below was smoking weed, and the one above was complaining about it because it was coming through the vents and whatnot. You'd have toilet leaks and all kinds of random issues that come up, and it's all manageable. If you have good contractors, you can pounce on it, but I'd rather just not even. I'm happy to pay the money to not get those calls. And then I'll show you a location here. Why I love the location. So, and at the time I wasn't even very familiar with Afton, but how I kind of vetted this out, it's right by Tower T. Tower T wasn't there at the time, but I knew that it was going in. So it's always nice when you have new development going on, whether it's houses or other, commercial stuff. So I knew Tower T was going in. That's, nice amenity in the area. We have Afton High School right here, so kids can actually just walk to high school from the building if they live there. And then Starbucks and Breadco. So these companies, they are professionals at picking out good locations. So if you can find something close to them, that's always a good sign. You have Club Fitness, Breadco, Starbucks. So yeah, I always look at a multifamily building from the lens, and this is stuff, these are properties that I want to hold long term. So I look at it from the lens of, could I live there and be content? I can walk to 9 Mile Garden. You have Starbucks, Breadco. You got Tower T right there. Good highway access, courtesy diner. So just quite a bit going on. All right, and then this next one, this is a duplex that my brother Matt and I purchased. So it's in Dogtown, and we found this in the MLS. So it hit the MLS, and we just pounced on it. So we were one of the first people that went out and looked at it, made an offer that night, and just bulldogged it. We were talking with the listing agent, just doing our best to push them to take our offer, emphasizing to them how easy we'd be to work with, and that we're experienced, and that we'd be buying it as is and whatnot. So we bought it at $230,000. We put about $50,000 into it, and I'll walk you through what we did. Rents when we purchased, it was both were vacant, and we actually ran numbers. We thought it would get about $1,200 or $1,250 a unit, and the property manager, this is another good lesson. We got the property manager involved early on, and she walked through and advised that we could potentially get $1,350 if we did a really good job updating these, and ended up making that happen. Current value is probably at least $325 now. Lessons learned: keep cash and reserves for when unexpected problems occur. Last July, I believe, when we had the historic rains, both basements on this, both sides flooded. So the nice thing about having a partner on these deals too, so it's $12,000 to fix the damage from the flooding. It's a big number, but when you're splitting it with your partner, it's $6,000, so it's a little more manageable. So it was painful, but manageable. And consult with the property manager early on in the process. They can provide great feedback on how to allocate funds. And although rare, deals can be found in the MLS. So this one's been a really good thing for us, and we found it in the MLS. And here, I'll show you photos of what we did to it. So here it is. We updated the kitchen, so painted old cabinets, put granite countertops on there, painted the backsplash, tile floors, stainless appliances, repainted throughout. We were gonna put LVP floors over the old hardwoods. The property manager encouraged that we not, so that saved us quite a bit. Nice spacious units. Did some updating to the bathroom. A good differentiator, each side has its own basement, so boatload of storage. And on these, we provided the washer and dryer. Sometimes it makes sense to. At $1,350, that was for a 1-bed, 1-bath unit. That's a rich price in the area. So she emphasized that we provide those, and that helped. That's the back. We could clean this up, but we got away not. And then it's a 2-car garage. So that's another good differentiator. So this one, I'll show the location. So I looked at this one from the lens of, could I live there? Yeah, I love this location right across from Franz Park. You can walk to Filoni's, you can walk to Sonny's Cantina. You have Weissman Dancewear Solutions, so a really big company, and they're doing a big expansion over here. So there's a bunch of construction, and that's a good source of potential future tenants. You have Olympia Kebab, so you can walk there. So a lot of good restaurants around. Short walk to the heart of Dogtown as well. And then also, like similar to Starbucks, a lot of these dispensaries popping up, they pick good locations. So you have a dispensary there. So overall, just an awesome location I expect to appreciate. And this is our most recent deal. Bought 4 duplexes, 3 in Farmington, Missouri, 1 in Park Hills, Missouri, which is about 15 minutes away. We bought these for $395. We put about $50,000 into it, give or take. Rents were $675, $550, $600, $500, $700, and $650. There was a lot of turnover right away. Tenants got word that we bought it and didn't like that there was new ownership. So a lot of people moved out right away. So it resulted in us having to invest more right off the bat. But so that was painful, but it went fine. So we were able to raise rents quickly. 775, 775, 700, 700, 700. We still have one of the old tenants in there at 500. So the current value of this has got to be at least 525 in my opinion. And be open-minded to buying markets outside of your city. So on this one, we got the local property management team involved quickly. So we met them at inspections, and they gave us a lot of good guidance on how to optimize these properties, and we made it happen. This is a seller who approached Mark directly just from our marketing. And closing thoughts. So don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. So doesn't mean you still want to be smart about what you buy, but I passed on a lot of opportunities in 2018, 2019 that, looking back, I really regret on passing on. So sometimes if you're going to hold it long term, you can roll the dice a little bit more. On all of these, I have at least one partner or multiple partners, and there's pros and cons to that. Overall, I mean, I haven't had any negative experiences with my partners, but the positives are when these big unexpected expenses come up, it doesn't all fall on you, you're splitting it. And then also it's a good way, you have somebody else, it's kind of a filter. I'm a little more aggressive, I'm open to take on more risk than my partners usually. So it's a good filter. You run stuff through them, and if they're not willing to buy it, it's probably too risky of a deal. And but ultimately, there could come a day where one wants to sell and the other may not. And so you just have to be prepared for that. If you own it all on your own, you have full control. But then when a $12,000 unexpected expense comes up, that all falls on you. And then, so with the 14 doors that we went through, I'm reaching a level where now it's a question of, I love all these properties. I could see myself holding them for a very long time, but you reach a point where it's a question of, do you sell these and roll that money into something bigger, like 40 unit or something? Or do you hold these smaller properties? So that's kind of the level that I've reached where I'm wondering, if we do that or if we just hold on. So those are my closing thoughts. Any questions on all that? Yep.
For your property managers, do you have a couple different property managers, or do they manage a couple of different properties? Like, how does that work?
We have a local company in Farmington that handles Farmington and Park Hills. And Matt and I have one management team on our duplex. We really, because I was new to property managers, I wanted to try out multiple. And ultimately, we may eventually consolidate, but and then on the Afton building, we have a property manager who actually manages that association and owns and manages other buildings in there. So he's kind of the perfect fit for that.
What about a management company rec or some company that you've had a good property management company that's good experience with?
I've been happy with all of them. They all have their pros and cons. So there's give and take with all of them, but they're all fairly consistent as far as what they've done for us. We use STL rental services on the Dogtown. They seem to do a lot in that area and nice pockets of the city. Roberts Realty on the Afton. They manage that whole development, so they're perfect for that. And then Professional Property Management Group in Farmington.
Cool.
What's the average price of that?
So the fees structure varies. So with the Dogtown property, it's 6% a month of the total income, and then you pay a full month's rent when they lease it. So it's more expensive then, but then less per month. And then for the Farmington properties, it's just 10% a month. They don't charge when they lease a place. They can vary. Yep. Yeah.
What were some of the deals that you passed on initially? What were some of the things that caused you not to pull the trigger?
A lot of it is opportunity cost. We felt like that there'd be a better deal around the corner. And for the most part, that was true. And looking back, I mean, there usually was, but it was usually the ones we passed on just had higher risk. There's one in St. Charles I really wish we bought, but it was a retaining wall in the back that was falling over. One of the previous tenants had a meth issue in there. So there's a lot of baggage to it. It would have been fine. It would have worked out really well if we bought it looking back, but at the time you just have to weigh, can we find something less risky? And then there was one in Fox Park I wish I bought, but it also just an older building, had a lot of baggage to it. So we're in a position when you have a lot of deal flow, you're in a position to be picky, and you only know what you know at the time. So at the time it was kind of a peak market. So we were assuming that things would change, and it actually did the opposite. So you only know what you know at the time. But yeah, I mean, going back to if you're going to buy it and hold it long term, you can roll the dice quite a bit more.
Except more risk.
Yep. Any other questions? Thank you.
You can hit stop record.
Thank you everyone for joining. Stop sharing.
That was awesome.